The gavel slammed down like a thunderclap in the stale air of the courtroom, sealing the fate of 5 fractured souls scattered across the foster system's cold ledger. Brian Whitaker, 42 and battle-scarred from his own youth in the shadows of small-town Indiana bigotry, locked eyes with the judge, a woman whose gaze softened just enough to betray the system's rare mercy. "Approved," she said, her voice a quiet revolution against the rejection that had dogged these boys for years, and in that moment, Brian's heart cracked open wider than the Mississippi on a spring flood. He'd seen them first in grainy case files, their photos like ghosts, wide-eyed kids with stories etched in bruises and silences, all queer in a world that pretended otherwise. Now, as the social worker handed over the paperwork, Brian's hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of a promise he hadn't voiced yet. "I'll be the family you never had, the one that doesn't shatter." Little did he know, the real storm was brewing not in the ink of adoption decrees, but in the tangled roots of love, loyalty, and the ghosts they'd all carry into manhood. Brian pulled his beat-up Ford pickup into the gravel driveway of the Old Victorian on Elm Street in Bloomington, Indiana, a town that still whispered about that gay teacher who'd upended the school board a decade ago. The house, with its peeling blue paint and wraparound porch, had been his sanctuary since college, bought with savings from subbing gigs and late-night shifts at the local diner. Now, it was about to become a battlefield of firsts. First shared meals, first arguments, first secrets spilled under the quilt his grandmother had sewn before disowning him for who he loved. The boys tumbled out of the social worker's minivan like autumn leaves caught in a gust. Awkward, vibrant, and utterly unprepared. There was Eli, 13, the smallest at 5'2", with freckles like scattered constellations and a stutter that thickened when he was scared. He'd been bounced from 3 homes in 2 years, labeled too effeminate, after his last foster dad caught him practicing makeup in the bathroom mirror. Next came Theo, 14, lanky and sharp-tongued, his dark curls a wild halo around eyes that had learned to spot hypocrisy from a mile away. He'd run away twice, once to Chicago, dreaming of Broadway lights that didn't judge. Jamal, 15, broad-shouldered and quiet as a summer storm, carried the weight of Atlanta streets in his gait. Kicked out at 12 for kissing a boy behind the bleachers, now wary of touch like it was a lit fuse. Then Lucas, 16, the artist with ink-stained fingers and a sketchbook clutched like a shield, his golden hair falling over a face that hid the scars from a Bible Belt orphanage that called him an abomination. And finally, Rowan, the eldest at 17, with a jaw set like granite and tattoos peeking from his sleeves. Self-inked rebellion from group homes in Seattle, where counselors whispered, fixable like a curse. Rowan had been the hardest sell. His file read like a rap sheet of survival. But Brian saw the flicker, the boy who'd protected the others in the system's waiting rooms, doling out stolen candy like a kingpin of kindness. "Welcome home," Brian said, his voice steady as the oak out front, though his pulse hammered like a freight train. He extended a hand, not to shake, but to offer, a gesture small as a seed, but rooted deep. Eli took it first, his palm clammy and small, and in that grip, Brian felt the echo of his own boyhood, hiding crushes on the quarterback under flannel shirts too big for his frame. The social worker, Ms. Hargrove, lingered with her clipboard, her eyes scanning the house like a hawk. 6 months probationary. Monthly check-ins. And remember, Mr. Whitaker, you're not just a guardian, you're rewriting their narratives. She nodded toward the boys, who hovered like colts testing new pasture. These kids, they've been told they're broken. Don't let the system break you too. As her taillights faded down the street, the silence stretched taut as a bowstring. Brian cleared his throat, forcing a grin that felt like lifting weights. All right, fellas. Pizza's on me, extra cheese. No anchovies unless you're feeling brave. And after, we claim rooms. Fair game. No shoving. Theo snorted, slinging his duffel over one shoulder. Shoving? Man, in my last place, it was survival of the fittest for the top bunk. His laugh was brittle, but it cracked the ice. Jamal hung back, eyeing the porch swing like it might bite, while Lucas flipped open his sketchbook, pencil scratching furiously, a quick line drawing of the house, already more home than it had been in his eyes. Rowan leaned against the truck, arms crossed, his gaze appraising Brian like a used car lot special. "Wyas, you got the pick of the litter. Straight kids. Easy ones. What's your angle? Teach." Brian met his stare, unflinching. He'd prepared for this, the cynicism forged in rejection's fire. "No angle, kid. I was you, once. Kicked out at 16 for holding hands with my best friend at prom. Spent nights in a church basement, wondering if love was just a fairy tale for straights. Figured if I could build something real for myself, maybe I could for you too." Rowan's eyes narrowed, but something shifted, a crack in the armor. "Fairy tale? Huh? Sounds like bullshit wrapped in Hallmark." "Call it what you want," Brian replied, unlocking the door with a creak that sang of old bones settling. "But this door stays open. Always." Inside, the house smelled of lemon polish and faint coffee, Brian's attempt at normalcy. The living room was a patchwork of thrift store finds. A sagging couch, bookshelves groaning with dog-eared Steinbecks and Baldwin paperbacks. A rainbow flag draped discreetly over the mantel. Eli darted to the window, pressing his nose to the glass. "No bars on these. Or locks from the outside." "No cages here," Brian confirmed, his chest tightening at the casual horror of it. He'd read the files, nights bolted in. For safety, they called it. Safety from what? From being themselves? Dinner was chaos wrapped in laughter. Pizza boxes splayed on the coffee table. Theo commandeering the remote for a RuPaul's Drag Race marathon. Education. People. While Jamal demolished 3 slices in silence, his shoulders easing slice by slice. Lucas sketched portraits between bites, capturing Eli's gap-toothed grin mid-story about a foster hamster named Sparkles. Rowan ate standing, but his eyes softened watching the fray, like a wolf pup scenting pack. Bedtime came with the awkward shuffle of boundaries. Brian assigned rooms upstairs, Eli and Theo sharing the one with twin beds under slanted eaves. Jamal in the blue room with posters of MLK and Baldwin waiting. Lucas in the attic airy perfect for dreaming. And Rowan in the guest suite downstairs, a nod to his need for space. As lights flicked off, Brian lingered in the hall, listening to the murmurs. Theo's whisper about not getting attached, Eli's soft hum of a pop song, the faint scratch of Lucas's pencil. But it was Rowan's door that drew him. A crack of light spilled under, and Brian knocked softly. "Hey, if you need anything, water, talk, whatever, I'm down the hall." Silence. Then, "Why'd you pick me? I'm the fuck-up. The one they all warn about." Brian leaned against the frame, voice low. "Because fuck-ups make the best stories. And I see a leader in you, Rowan. The kind who doesn't just survive, thrives." For all of us. The door opened a sliver. Rowan's face shadowed but raw. Don't make promises you can't keep. Man. I won't, Brian said, and meant it like gospel. That first night, sleep evaded Brian like a skittish dream. He lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, replaying the day's whirlwind. 5 boys, 5 chances to heal his own fractures. But in the quiet, doubt crept in. What if I'm not enough? What if the world outside these walls chews them up anyway? Morning broke with the clatter of cereal bowls and Theo's off-key rendition of Single Ladies. Eli had spilled milk on the tablecloth, giggling as Jamal mopped it with theatrical sighs. Lucas presented Brian with a sketch, a family portrait, rough but tender, all 6 of them clustered under that oak tree. For the fridge, he mumbled, cheeks pink. Rowan joined last, hair tousled, but with a nod toward the group. Pancakes? If you're cooking, teach. Brian laughed, the sound foreign and free. Deal. But you flip, as batter sizzled. Stories unfurled like ribbons. Eli's dream of theater camp, Theo's obsession with musicals, Jamal's quiet love for poetry slams, Lucas's gallery visions, Rowan's hidden talent for guitar. Brian shared, too, his escape to Indiana University, the professor who'd mentored him through coming out, the lover lost to AIDS in the 90s, a scar that still ached like phantom limb. By week's end, routines rooted, school buses rumbling up Elm Street, Brian subbing shifts at the high school where he'd once been that activist, evenings of homework marathons and porch swings under fireflies. Conflicts simmered small, a stolen hoodie sparking Theo's temper, Eli's nightmare waking the house at 2 a.m., his sobs echoing Brian's own buried grief. One rainy Tuesday, the storm hit. Rowan vanished after school, his backpack ditched in the mud. Brian found him hours later at the quarry's edge, skipping stones into the churning water. I called my old caseworker, Rowan spat, rain lashing his face. Said you'd regret it. That I'm poison. Brian's coat draped over Rowan's shoulders, a shield against the downpour. Then they're wrong. You're fire. Kid, scary. Sure. But what forges steel? Rowan punched his arm. Not hard. Tears mixing with rain. What if I burn it all down? Then we rebuild. Together, in that mudslick moment, trust took root, fragile as a sapling, but fierce. Months blurred into a rhythm. Holidays hacked together with store-bought turkey and Eli's lopsided menorah, a nod to his Jewish foster stint. Summers at Lake Monroe where Theo cannonballed like a pro and Jamal taught fly fishing with the patience of saints. Brian watched them bloom, Eli's stutter fading in drama club, Lucas's art earning a youth exhibit spot, Rowan's guitar strums lulling the house to sleep. But shadows lingered. Whispers at school, Whitaker's Little Rainbow Brigade, the parents' petition to oust Brian from subbing. And in quiet hours, the boys' confessions, Theo's first crush crushed by a bully's fist, Jamal's letter from a biomom who wrote, "Choose Jesus or me." Brian held space for it all. His own heart a vault of vulnerabilities shared, nights cuddled on the couch during Brokeback Mountain marathons, tears unashamed. Love's not a straight line, he'd say. It's a damn winding road, but worth every pothole. By year's end, the house thrummed with life, laughter echoing off walls once silent, photos papering the fridge like a timeline of triumphs. Yet Brian knew this was just the overture. The real symphony, with its crescendos of joy and discords of doubt, was only beginning. 2 years in, The Whitaker house on Elm Street had shed its stranger skin, morphing into a haven stitched from hand-me-downs and hard-won trust. Brian, now 44, traded subbing for a full-time gig counseling at the local LGBTQ+ youth center. Irony not lost on him. The boy from cornfields who'd once hidden his truth in library stacks. The boys, his constellation of chaos and grace, navigated adolescence's minefield with him as compass. Eli, 15 now, belting show tunes in the shower. Theo, 16, scripting one-acts that skewered small-town hypocrisy. Jamal, 17, captaining the debate team with a voice like rolling thunder. Lucas, 18 and eyeing art school scholarships, filled canvases with portraits that peeled back layers. Brian's laugh lines mapped like rivers. Rowan's guarded smile cracked open like dawn. And Rowan, 19, the enigma, had traded Street Inc. for community college classes in social work. His guitar gigs at open mics drawing crowds who saw the poet beneath the punk. But joy's underbelly is doubt, and it slithered in on a crisp October eve, disguised as opportunity. Bruce Harlan, Brian's old college flame, blew back into Bloomington like a gust off Lake Michigan. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a salt-streaked beard and eyes like smoked quartz, Bruce was the what-if Brian had buried, the architect who'd built bridges in Chicago, then burned his own when his firm folded in the recession. "Heard you went domestic," Bruce teased over coffee at the corner bookstore, his knee brushing Brian's under the table, electric as memory. Brian laughed it off, but the spark lingered, a reminder of nights tangled in dorm sheets, dreams whispered against skin. Kids'll do that. Turn you into a soccer dad with a minivan phobia. Bruce's grin widened. Wolfish. Soccer? Nah. But pride parades? Count me in. I'm back for good, teaching drafting at IU. Thought maybe we catch up. Properly. The properly hung heavy, laced with promise. Brian demurred, citing the boys, the house's fragile equilibrium. But Bruce persisted. Dinners where he charmed Eli with magic tricks, jammed with Rowan on covers of Springsteen, debated Audre Lorde with Jamal till dawn. Theo dubbed him Uncle Hotness. Lucas sketched him mid-laugh, and even stoic Eli bloomed under his easy affection. For Brian, it was resurrection. Bruce's hand on his back during movie nights, the scent of his cologne evoking lost youth. They stole moments, walks along the rail trail, where leaves crunched underfoot like confessions, kisses in the truck that tasted of second chances. "I never stopped," Bruce murmured one night, forehead to Brian's. "You were the one who got away." The boys noticed. Of course, kids have radars for heart shifts. "He's cool," Theo said, winking. "Like, really cool." Rowan, ever the sentinel, watched closer, his jaw tightening at Bruce's casual arm around Brian's waist. Thanksgiving cemented it. Bruce carved the turkey with flair, toasting to families forged, not born, and the table erupted in cheers. Later, as snow dusted the porch, Brian and Bruce swayed to faint radio carols, the boys' silhouettes flickering in window glow. Felt right, whole, like the missing piece slotting home. But fissures form in fullness. Winter brought the first crack, a school board hearing, parents railing against indoctrination in Brian's counseling role. Protests outside the youth center, slurs scrawled on his truck, pervert palace. The boys rallied, Eli's petition drive, Theo's viral op-ed in the student paper, Jamal's impassioned speech at City Hall. Bruce stood firm too, his firm donating pro bono legal aid. But whispers followed. Who's the new guy? Another phase? Rowan confronted Brian in the garage, wrench in hand from tuning his bike. He's using you. Saw it in his eyes, pity for the noble sacrifice. Like we're your charity case, and he's the upgrade. Brian's gut twisted. It's not like that. Bruce gets it. The mess. The magic. Does he? Rowan's voice cracked. Rare vulnerability flashing. Or does he see the poster boy for redemption? You deserve more than a pity fuck. Dad. The word dad hung. Uncharted territory. Brian pulled him into a hug. Rough and real. I love you, kid. All of you. That's not changing. But doubt seeded. Spring thawed the ground. But not the chill. Bruce proposed cohabitation over Easter brunch. His lease up. Why not merge lives? Brian hesitated. The boys' faces flashing. Eli's wide-eyed trust. Theo's sly grin. Let's talk it through, he said, tabling it. Then the bomb dropped. Lucas, home from a portfolio review in Indianapolis, burst through the door pale as ash. Dad Bry, it's online. Some asshole from the board leaked files. Our files. The leak was surgical cruelty. Redacted adoption docs twisted into tabloid fodder. Gay activist hordes, problem teens in Midwest menagerie. Photos pilfered from social media. Family pics at the lake. Porch swings, captioned with venom. Is this family or freak show? The house imploded. Eli barricaded in his room. Sobs muffled by pillows. Theo rage-typed takedowns till his fingers cramped. Jamal paced like a caged panther, reciting Baldwin till words blurred. Lucas burned sketches in the sink. Flames licking accusations. Rowan vanished again, this time to a dive bar where fists answered questions. Brian fielded calls, reporters sniffing scandal. MS. Hargrove's terse, stay strong. Audits incoming. Bruce arrived with takeout and take charge calm, rallying the boys into a war room. Strategy sessions over pizza. Affirmations scrawled on butcher paper. You're not defined by this shit, he declared, arm around Brian. We're fighters. In the melee, they leaned harder, Bruce's presence a buoy. But Rowan's return shattered the illusion. Drunk and bruised, he cornered Bruce in the kitchen at midnight. You leaked it, didn't you? To look like the hero. Save the poor gays from the witch hunt. Bruce recoiled, incredulous. What the hell? Man, I've got your back. Liar. Rowan's fist connected with the fridge, denting steel. I saw your browser history on the shared laptop. Searches for adoption scandals. Planning your TED Talk on rescuing the rescuers. Brian, drawn by the crash, froze in the doorway. Bruce's face drained, but his denial roared. Kid, you're paranoid, trauma talking. Prove it. Rowan snarled, shoving his phone forward, screenshots of deleted emails. Timestamps damning. The room spun. Brian snatched the device, scrolling, queries to a PI firm, notes on Whitaker vulnerabilities for a feature story Bruce had pitched to a Chicago mag. Not malice. Bruce swore later research for a profile on resilience. Anonymized. Supportive. But the intent blurred. Exposure without consent. A narrative hijacked. Betrayal bloomed bitter. You saw us as copy, Brian whispered, voice hollow. Not family. Bruce's pleas echoed empty. I was building us a platform, but the damage rooted deep. He packed that night, tail lights vanishing into the dark like a bad sequel. The house mourned in fragments. Eli's clingy hugs, Theo's forced jokes, Jamal's poetry readings like balm. Lucas painted abstracts of shattered glass, beauty in breakage. Rowan, remorse gnawing, fixed the fridge dent with duct tape and apologies. I pushed too hard. But he was wrong for you. Brian nodded. Hollow. Maybe. But trust? That's the fracture we mend now. Summer healed slow. Road trip to the Smokies, where mist-shrouded trails mirrored inner fogs. Around campfires, truths tumbled. Brian's fear of repeating his youth's isolation. The boy's terror of abandonment's echo. We're stuck, Theo quipped, roasting marshmallows. Like glue. Gay glue. Laughter returned. Tentative. Fall brought triumphs. Eli's lead in Rent. Theo's scholarship to NYU Tisch. Jamal's spoken word win at Nationals. Lucas's gallery show sold out. Portraits of found family. Brian Central. Eyes alight with pride. Rowan. Shadowing Brian's counseling shifts. Confessed dreams of advocacy law. You showed me home's not a place, it's people who stay. By winter's cusp. The leak faded to footnote. The youth center stronger. Petitions quashed. Brian dated sporadically. A barista with kind hands. A librarian who quoted Whitman. But his heart anchored home. To the boys now men. Their orbits expanding yet tethered. Yet in quiet nights, staring at the ceiling fan, Brian wondered, had Bruce's shadow scarred them deeper or forged them fiercer? The answer came unbidden. In the mail, a letter from Bruce, postmarked Chicago. I was wrong, selfish, blind. You built a legacy I couldn't touch. Be well, love. Brian burned it in the sink. Ashes swirling like released ghosts. Forward. Always forward. 5 years post-adoption. The Elm Street Victorian stood sentinel against Bloomington's relentless churn. A beacon for strays, its porch light a 24/7 invitation. Brian, at 47, wore laugh lines like badges, his counseling caseload a tapestry of triumphs. Teens who'd come out under his roof, now thriving in cities that embraced them. The boys, his sons, legally and otherwise, had scattered like seeds on wind, yet rooted back. Eli, teen, ruled the stage at Indiana Rep, his stutter banished to backstory, voice soaring in Angels in America revivals. Theo, 19, conquered NYC's theater scene, his play Outcasts overture off-Broadway hit, a semi-autobiographical gut punch on Foster queerdom. Jamal, 20, anchored Howard University's debate squad, his essays in The Atlantic dissecting intersectional black gay identity with scalpel precision. Lucas, 21, parlayed art school into a Chicago residency, murals blooming on warehouse walls, vibrant queer histories reclaiming urban decay. Rowan, 22, the wild card, juggled IU law with underground music. His band fractured roots packing dives with anthems of resilience. Holidays pulled them homeward. Eli's dramatic entrances with boyfriends in tow. Theo's scripts for family skits. Jamal's soul food feasts blending southern roots with vegan twists. Lucas gifted portraits that captured essences. Eli midlaugh. Frozen joy. Theo's intensity etched in bold strokes. Rowan strummed carols, his gravel voice wrapping the living room in warmth. Brian orchestrated it all. The quiet conductor, his own life a steady hum, book club debates on queer lit, volunteer shifts at pride events, a casual fling with a visiting prof that fizzled amicably. You're the rock, Eli teased once, clinking cider glasses. Our gay ward cleaver, but rocks erode. The tempest brewed in Rowan, the sun who'd become shadow, his gigs veering darker, lyrics laced with rage. Brian noticed the late nights, the hollowed cheeks, the flask glint in his guitar case. Talk to me, he'd urge over coffee, steam curling like unspoken fears. It's nothing, Rowan deflected. Eyes evading. Just the grind. Truth cracked open on a sleet-lashed February night. Brian returned from a center lockdown drill to find the kitchen trashed, shards of mug littering linoleum. Rowan's note scrawled on a napkin. Gone to clear my head. Don't wait up. Love. Panic propelled Brian to the quarry. Old instincts sharp. There was Rowan, silhouette against churning water, bottle in hand, guitar propped like a crutch. Knew you'd come, he slurred, not turning. Brian approached slow, boots crunching ice. Always. What's eating you, son? Rowan hurled a stone, splash echoing accusation. You. This. The perfect fucking family you built, while I rot inside. Words spilled then. Torrent. The leaks ghost haunting gigs. Promoters whispering troubled adoptee like leverage. A lover's abandonment echoing Bruce's betrayal. Law school's crush. Imposter syndrome gnawing. I'm the weak link. The one who'll drag us down. Brian's heart fractured. He sat beside, shoulder to shoulder, silence a bridge. You're not weak. You're human, messy, magnificent. Remember Seattle? You shielded those kids with nothing but grit. That's strength, Rowan. Not perfection. Rowan wept then, ugly and unfiltered, bourbon breath mingling with confessions. Bruce broke something in me, made me doubt if I'm lovable, if anyone stays. Brian pulled him close, rain mingling with tears. I stay. We all do. Love's not earned. It's given, fierce and free. Dawn found them trudging home, Rowan's arm slung over Brian's neck. Detox starting with black coffee and brutal honesty. The brothers rallied. Eli's playlists for emotional excavation, Theo's co-written therapy script, Jamal's meditation circles, Lucas's abstract rage release canvas. Rowan Dove in NA meetings, campus counseling, guitar riffs reborn as ballads of mending. Spring bloomed renewal. Rowan's band album Quarry Echoes, tracks raw as therapy transcripts, topping indie charts. Brian beamed at the launch party, Chicago warehouse pulsing with pride flags and queer icons. There, amid strobe lights and sweat-slick dances, Rowan introduced Nate, a lanky sound tech with a shy grin and steady hands. He's real, Rowan murmured later. Vulnerability velvet. Stays when it's hard. Brian clasped his shoulder, eyes misting. You deserve that. We all do. A tempest circle. Summer scorched with news. Theo's big break. A Broadway callback for Hamilton understudy. Clashing with Jamal's wedding to his college sweetheart. Isha, a poet whose hijab framed firebrand eyes. Logistics frayed tempers. Flights cancelled. Egos bruised. Theo snapped at Jamal over a group chat. Your woke wedding trumps my career? Typical. Jamal fired back. Selfish much? This is us, family first. Brian mediated via Zoom. Voice anchor in the storm. We're not perfect. But we're chosen. Fight fair. Love harder. The wedding, in DC's cherry blossom haze. Mended, Theo as best man. Toast a poetic plea. To brothers who build bridges from broken beams. Hugs lingered, apologies unspoken but felt. Fall deepened bonds. Eli's coming out panel at IU. Brian in front row tears. Lucas's mural unveiling in Bloomington's Arts District. A rainbow river weaving through Main Street. Rowan proposed to Nate under that oak. Ring simple silver. Brian officiating with vows borrowed from Whitman. I give you myself, yet undercurrents stirred. Anonymous letters arrived, echoes of the leak. Slurs veiled as concerned citizens. Brian traced them to a disgruntled ex-board member. Lawsuit brewing. The boys armored up. Theo's lawyer contacts. Jamal's media savvy. Lucas's protest posters. In the fray, Brian faltered. A doctor's note. Early hypertension. Stress's toll. Slow down, the doc urged. You're carrying the world. That night, porch swing creaking, he confessed to the empty dark. Footsteps, all 5 sons, home unannounced, piling on like puppies. We carry you too, Eli whispered. Always, winter wrapped them tight. Solstice bonfire in the backyard, stories swapped like heirlooms. Theo debuted a new play, Elm Street Requiem, a love letter to fractured families finding harmony. Jamal and Aisha announced a baby, Joy's Ripple. Lucas's first gallery solo, Sanctuaries, sold to MoMA. Eli landed a touring Wicked gig. Rowan clerked at a queer rights firm, Nate by his side. Brian, watching from the wings, felt the weight lift, not gone, but shared. This, he thought, is the heart's true tempest, wild, wondrous, weathered but unbroken. A decade etched the Whitaker saga into Bloomington lore, the Blue Victorian a pilgrimage site for youth center tours, this porch swing worn smooth by confessions. Brian, 52, sported silver temples and a paunch from too many victory pies, but his eyes burned bright, counseling now a non-profit helm, Whitaker House, a shelter mirroring his own. The sons, men forged in firelight, orbited wide yet loyal. Eli headlining regional theater. Theo Tony nominated for Outcast sequel. Jamal tenured prof at Howard. Aisha and toddler Malik his anchors. Lucas Chicago curator. Murals Global. Rowan partner at ACLU's Midwest branch. Nate their rock. Reunions pulsed like heartbeats. Fourths with fireworks and frisbee. Christmases carol-crashing neighbors. Brian, the Nexus, cherished it, their partners woven in. Nieces and nephews toddling chaos. Yet blood calls, and betrayal's blade is kin-sharp. It arrived via FedEx. Innocuous envelope from Family Services, Indianapolis. Brian slid it open over Morning Joe. Contents spilling like ash. DNA results. Courtesy of a half-sister he'd never known. Unearthed by Ancestry kits. His biodad, deceased mill worker from Gary, had sired not one, but 2 gay sons, Brian, and a younger brother, Curtis, surrendered at birth, bounced through system cracks. Now 48 and seeking reconnection. The letter trembled in Brian's grip. Curtis' brother, detailed a life parallel. Foster hells, queer awakening in 80s San Francisco, AIDS-ravaged youth, survival as a tattoo artist in Portland. Saw your story in a Doka short. Knew it was you, the eyes, the fight. Can we meet? No expectations, just blood. Brian paced the kitchen, ghosts rising. His mother's cold shoulder post coming out. Father's silence a grave. Family? After all this? He called the sons in a frenzy text chain. Big news. Come home. Pronto. They converged like arrows. Eli flying standby. Theo ditching rehearsals. Jamal road-tripping with fam. Lucas Amtrakking overnight. Rowan zooming till wheels hit pavement. The house brimmed. Pieced together potluck fueling the huddle. Brother, Theo echoed. Brow arched. Like. Plot twist biblical. Jamal scrolled the letter on his phone. Voice measured. Could be healing. Or hurricane. Eli, ever the romantic, clutched Brian's hand. Imagine Thanksgiving doubles. Aunts. Cousins. Lucas sketched idly, a family tree branching wild. Rowan, cynical sentinel, leaned forward. Or he's after something. Money. Story writes. We've seen that script. Debate raged till midnight. Beers cracking like opinions. Brian. Torn. Voted heart. One coffee. Neutral ground. If it sours, we bolt. The meat was a diner off I-65. Vinyl booths sticky with history. Curtis arrived early, lean. Inked arms sleeved in nautical motifs. Face a weathered map of Brian's own. Same jaw. Same blue stare. You look like him, Curtis said. Voice gravel from Portland smokes. Dad. Before the booze broke him. Over eggs and endless refills. Stories unspooled. Curtis's orphanage odyssey. Queer bars as surrogate kin. Partner lost to overdose. I built nothing like you, he admitted. Envy laced with awe. Your boys. They're legends. Brian swallowed lump. They're mine because I chose. Blood's just ink. Stories matter more. Curtis nodded. Eyes wet. Then let's write one. Siblings. Slow. The infusion was elixir at first. Weekly calls. Curtis visiting Elm Street for grill outs. Bonding over the wire marathons. The sons vetted him wary. Rowan grilling on motives. Theo scripting icebreaker improv. But thawed. Eli dragged him to karaoke. Jamal debated Foucault. Lucas inked a matching tat. Compass rose for Found North. Curtis fit. Cracks and all, a jigsaw piece warped but willing. Brian dreamed of wholeness. Holidays expanded. Curtis's tales of Haight-Ashbury raves. His guitar duets with Rowan evoking Dylan. But betrayal brews in bounty. Fall's harvest moon lit the reveal. Eli. Rifling attic boxes for props. Unearthed Curtis's journal. Left accidentally. In a guest room drawer. Pages chronicled not kinship. But calculus. Play the savior angle. Doka deal with Netflix pending. Leverage the sob story. Cash in on the halo. Entries dissected Brian's brand. The adoptions as PR gold. Sons as supporting cast. A broker's note. Advance wired. Feature on Prodigal Brothers greenlit. Eli's scream echoed house deep. The family tribunal convened. Curtis summoned via frantic call. He arrived sheepish. Journal clutched like shield. It started innocent. A pitch to fund my shop. Then. Momentum. I got greedy. Thought I could have both you and the spotlight. Rowan's fist clenched white. You used us. Again. Like Bruce. But bloodier. Theo's voice sliced. We trusted. Built you in. For this. Jamal. Calm fury. Blood don't mean shit if it's poison. Lucas hurled the journal into the fire pit. Flames devouring deceit. Eli wept silent. Trust's thread snapped. Brian faced Curtis last. Porch swing our confessional. Why? We opened the door. Curtis deflated. Voice small. Fear. Always running from empty. Thought fame filled it. It doesn't, Brian said. Steel soft. Family does. But you chose wrong. Curtis left at dawn. Tail lights a second exodus. Apologies trailing like exhaust. The house grieved raw. Bonfire vigils burning old photos. Therapy circles raw as open wounds. How many times? Eli wailed. How many betrayals before we bolt the gates? Brian gathered them. Arms a circle. As many as it takes. We're not victims, we're victors. Each scar's a story we own. Healing hauled slow. Eli's role in a betrayal-themed cat on a tin roof. Catharsis and drawl. Theo's op-ed, blood optional. On Chosen Kin. Jamal's family therapy podcast episode. Malik gurgling backup. Lucas's exhibit veins of valor. Vessels pulsing queer resilience. Rowan's legal brief on privacy rights. Inspired by the sting. Winter solstice. They reclaimed. Tree trimming with fuck blood ornaments. Toasts to the 6 who stuck. Brian, mending his own rift. Wrote Curtis one letter. Forgiveness offered. Door ajar but latched. No reply came, but peace did. Spring's thaw mirrored thaw. A center expansion. Son's endowments funding bunk beds for new strays. Brian dated a woodworker named Sam. Steady hands. No spotlights, who carved benches for the porch. Symbols of rooted rest. By summer, the betrayal faded scar. Not wound. Curtis's doku aired to yawns. Cancelled mid-season. Karma's quiet coup. The Whitakers, stronger lattice. Branches intertwined. Brian, watching fireflies dance. Whispered to stars, we bend, but never break. That's our bloodline now. 15 years since the gavel's grace. The Blue Victorian loomed larger in legend, a Midwest mecca for queer memoirs, its walls wallpapered with Son's accolades. Eli's Obi for echoes unsilenced. Theo's Pulitzer nod for family fractals. Jamal's MacArthur Genius Grant. Channeling funds to black trans orgs. Lucas's TED Talk on Art as Anchor. Viewed millions. Rowan's Supreme Court amicus on foster reform. Nate their co-counsel in life and law. Brian, 57. Captained Whitaker House with vigor undimmed. Though aches whispered of mileage. Knee twinges from quarry treks. Nights where sleep dodged like old doubts. Sam, his partner of 5. Brought balance. Cabinet makers calm. Their shared cabin in Brown County a retreat of whittled birds and whispered vows. You're the melody, Sam say. Hands flour-dusted from pie crusts. I'm just the bass line. The family symphony swelled. Grandkids. Malik's sister Zora. Eli's twins from surrogate Joe. Theo's adopted daughter Lila. Chasing through halls. Chaos confetti. Reunions rivaled rock tours. Eli's improv workshops. Jamal's poetry slams. Lucas's mural masterclasses. Rowan's legal moot courts. Theo's script readings. Yet symphonies sour. The discord struck in autumn's amber. Brian's doc visit. Stage 2 lymphoma. Caught early chemo. Radiation. Prognosis good. But, the word but echoed abyss. Brian drove home numb. Elm Street blurring. Pulling over to howl at the wheel, a primal keen for stolen tomorrows. He told Sam first. Over cider in the cabin. Sam's carpenter hands framing his face. We'll fight, Sam vowed. Voice timber steady. Like always, the sons learned via emergency conclave. Flights rerouted. Schedules shredded. They stormed the house. A phalanx of love and logistics. Eli booking top oncologists. Theo crowdsourcing wellness scripts. Jamal researching trials. Lucas painting warrior wards for the fridge. Rowan filing for expedited care under ADA. Brian, ringed by them, cracked. I built this for you, legacy of living out loud. Don't want pity parties. Theo knelt, fierce. This ain't pity. This payback. You saved us. Now we save you. Chemo commenced in winter's grip. For drips like icy veins. Nausea a nausea beast. The house adapted. Ginger tea stations. Heated blankets. Sons rotating dad duty. Eli's bedside wicked monologues. Jamal's haiku pep talks. Lucas's healing mandalas. Theo scripted a cancer cabaret fundraiser. Broadway stars belting for bills. Rowan sued insurers for coverage gaps. Winning precedents. Rowan, iron will cracking. Confessed one blizzard night. Seeing you fade. It's the quarry all over. Helpless. Brian, bald and beaming under a knit beanie, gripped his hand. Nah. This is the encore. Loudest act yet. Spring's green dared hope. Scans shrinking tumors. Energy ebbing back. The center's gala, Whitaker Legacy Night, drew luminaries. Governors, celebs, sons toasting Brian's quiet revolution. Eli emceed. Voice velvet thunder. He didn't just adopt us. He adopted the world's wounds, turning them to wonder. Summer solstice. Remission declared. Brian danced with Sam under string lights. Sons and grandkids whirling polka-dotted joy. Beat the bastard. Theo hooped, hoisting him piggyback. But sorrow's stinger lingers. Fall's harvest hid the relapse stage 4. Bones riddled. Months at best. Brian chose truth. Family summit. No sugarcoats. I've lived full. Love you brats more than stars. Make it a send-off. Not sobfest. They honored. Eli's Brian Requiem musical. Workshopped in living room. Theo's memoir collab. Adopted by Fireflies. Jamal's foundation launch. Whitaker wings for foster flights. Lucas's installation. Eternal Elm. Interactive portraits pulsing light. Rowan's bill. Brian act for queer foster equity. Hospice came home. Victorian transformed sanctuary. Morphine mists. Harpists strumming. Grandkids crayon cards papering walls. Sons bedside vigils. Stories looping like lullabies. Eli's first line flub. Theo's runaway scare. Jamal's debate demolish. Lucas's first sale. Rowan's proposal fumble. One dusk. Brian rallied. Voice whisper wind. Proud. Of you. The joy. You walked into. Keep walking. Eyes locked. Blue to blues. Legacies linked. We will. Dad. Rowan choked. Promise. He slipped at dawn. Sam's hand in his. Window cracked to birdsong. The house held breath. Then exhaled in wail. A symphony's close. Poignant pause. Funeral swelled cathedral-sized. Bloomington Baptist. Reclaimed for rainbow eulogies. Eli sang, Defying Gravity. Theo read Baldwin on Love's Labor. Jamal invoked ancestors' resilience. Lucas projected Eternal Elm. Rowan cited the Axe Passage. Sam closed. He walked us to joy. Now we carry the torch. Graveside. Under that oak transplanted to the hill. They buried him with guitar pick. Sketchbook. Rainbow thread. Grandkids scattered petals. A final chaos gift. Morning morphed mosaic. Whitaker House Gala in his name. Expansions nationwide. Sons' works bloomed tributes. Eli's tour. Theo's film adaptation. Jamal's book. Lucas's biennial. Rowan's landmark ruling. Decades later, the blue Victorian endures, sons stewards, grandkids guardians. On porches, they tell tales of a man who adopted no one's rejects, turning echoes to anthems. Joy, he taught, isn't walked alone. It's a road shared, winding, wondrous. 25 years after the gavel's gift, Bloomington's Elm Street slumbered under July stars. The Victorian A Living Archive, plaques on porch posts chronicling site of queer revolution, tours by candlelight whispering Brian's blueprint. The sons, elders now in their 40s, steward legacies layered. Eli, 48, artistic director of a National Theater collective, mentoring fosters on stage. Theo, 49, showrunner of Fractured Families, an Emmy-sweeping series birthing policy shifts. Jamal, 50, dean at Howard, his Wings Network Wings for 10,000 Youth. Lucas, 51, MoMA curator with a queer archive wing. Elm Eternal its crown. Rowan, 52, federal judge. Brian Act etched in code. Nate retired beside him, silvered and serene. Sam, Brian's widower, tended the cabin, now a retreat center, whittled benches memorials, pies baked for passels of protégés. Grandkids, a dozen strong, romped the grounds. Malik, 25, a poet activist. Zora, 23, trans engineer. Eli's twins, journalists chasing truths. Lila, 22, law student shadowing Rowan. More sprouts from blended branches, all carrying the Whitaker wild. Annual convergence, Brian Bash, rivaled festivals. Bonfires blazing, bands, Rowan's airs, thumping. Murals live painted, debates poetic, scripts staged impromptu. This year's theme, Walk On, a nod to the horizon Brian chased them toward. As dusk dipped, they gathered porch ritual. Lanterns lit, stories summoned. Eli started, voice honey-hued. Remember the pizza wars? Extra cheese or bust? Dad arbitrating like Solomon. Laughter rippled. Theo leaned in, script in lap, or the quarry night. Rowan, bottle in hand, Dad's coat a cape. That's when I knew. Heroes don't wear capes. They wear flannel. Jamal nodded. Malik perched on knee. He taught us love's labor, not fairy tales, but fields. We plant, we harvest hurt, but joy, that's the yield. Lucas unrolled a canvas, new horizons. Suns silhouetted against dawn. Brian's shadow leading. Art holds the light he lit. We pass it. Rowan. Guitar strummed soft. Closed. Betrayals came. Bruce's spotlight. Curtis's con. My own demons. But Dad, he walked us through. Now we walk for him. Cheers crested. Then quieted for the vigil. Fireflies summoned, as if conjured. Sam, ice crinkled. Raised cider, to Brian, adopter of dreams. He watched us walk into joy. Now, we dance in it. The night unfolded revelry. Zora's drone light show tracing rainbows. Lila's moot on legacy law. Twins podcast live on queer kinships. Malik recited original verse. Bloodlines bent, echoing Baldwin through black gay prisms. Bands jammed fusions. Rowan's folk punk with Eli's show tunes. Theo's scores underscoring. Midnight found elders swinging. Porch Creek a cradle song. Miss him, Eli murmured, head on Theo's shoulder. Every damn day, Theo replied. But hear that? His laugh, In the wind, the kids whoops. Immortal, Jamal joined, Aisha's hand in his. He built us bulletproof. Scandals, sickness we bend. Bloom, Lucas, sketching fireglow, and paint over the cracks. Beauty in the breaks. Rowan, Nate's arm anchor. Judge's gavel falls kind now, thanks to him. Foster roles rewritten. No more unwanteds. Dawn crept, Bash fading to embers. They scattered renewed. Eli to additions, Theo to sets, Jamal to lectures, Lucas to exhibits, Rowan to benches, Sam to the cabin, whittling a new bird for Lila's graduation. Yet one thread tugged. A letter, forwarded from the center from Curtis, Portland postmark faded. Saw the Bash clips. Your lives. Poetry I couldn't pen. Forgave myself late, but proud from afar. Walk on, brothers' sons. Rowan read it aloud. Circle closing. He tried. That's something. Burned at last light. Ashes to Oaks release ritual. Sunrise gilded the Victorian. Grandkids chasing dawn. Zora paused. Drone humming. Grandpa Brian. He the one who started this? Eli scooped her up. Yup. Adopted 5 no ones. Made us every once. Now your turn, walk into it. She grinned. Fierce. With joy? Bet. The road wound on. Whitaker tendrils nationwide. Houses modeled on elm. Acts amending codes. Stories scripting change. Betrayals? Footnotes in epics. Sorrows? Symphonies scored sweet. Brian, if watching from stars, would nod salt-pepper grin wide. That's my boys. Walking tall, loving loud. Joy's not endpoint, it's the damn path. And so they walked, decades deep, horizons infinite, into light inherited, legacies luminous,